Scotland and its spectacular scenery have played a starring role in Hollywood movies from Brigadoon to Braveheart.
But from 5,000 miles away, it's easy to think it's only a place of magic and myth. Viewed from closer to home, things can sometimes seem a little different.
Doesn't it make you proud to be Scottish? It's shite being Scottish!
I want to take a closer look at how Scotland's been perceived, from Hollywood's long lens view to the reflections of homegrown filmmakers. So I'm going to the locations of some landmark Scottish films
to find out what image of the country movie makers project when they put Scotland on screen. Am I being upstaged by that view?
Having grown up in the countryside in Angus, I feel back at home behind the wheel of a Land Rover, at the first stop on my movie location tour of Scotland.
Here in the Highlands, the spectacular backdrops of Glencoe to Glenfinnan have featured in films from Bonnie Prince Charlie to Braveheart. The combination of this great natural beauty, its defiant history and rebellious heroes has proved irresistible to filmmakers.
The real drama of the Highland landscape never fails to thrill when it's captured on film. Just watch Richard Hannay make his escape down the slopes of Glencoe in the 39 Steps. Harry Potter hurtle over the Glenfinnan Viaduct en route to Hogwarts. Or Sean Connery row ashore at Loch Shield in Highlander. But when Hollywood comes to the Highlands, there's still some Brigadoon in the baggage.
Hollywood never depicts urban Scotland, it's always rural and historical. People will be tramping around in as much tartanry as possible.
The Hollywood shorthand for Scotland is the kilt, there's no getting away from that. Then of course you're on to Scottish dancing. I suppose you could add to that the Highland Games, and, you know, men in kilts doing strange things with large poles.
But can we really hold Hollywood responsible for these Scottish stereotypes?
I think the Scots mythologise their own country. I think it's in our nature. So we can't really blame Hollywood for setting the rot.
From the romantic novels of Walter Scott to the musical kitsch of Harry Lauder, we've manufactured a few Highland myths ourselves, and Hollywood just sells them back.
What tends to happen is the filmmakers extract and distill the mythology even more, and there are certain elements in a Scottish film that have got to be there. Misty, climate, a warrior theme, and even better if it's associated with a lost cause.
From Bonnie Prince Charlie's doomed rebellion to William Wallace's painful demise, the formula's still the same.
In recent years, Hollywood has reinvaded the Highlands and our history. Well, they may take our lives, but they will never take our freedom! Thanks, Mel.
In 1995, two blockbusters, Braveheart and Rob Roy, crossed swords in a bid for box office glory. Both featured a Highland rebel with a loving wife fighting the dastardly English. Let battle commence. An 18th century Highland Robin Hood, Rob Roy is the story of Scotland's greatest folk hero, who has to defend his honour after he's badly wronged by a nasty English nobleman.
Rob Roy is like the good but much less popular twin to Braveheart. I think Rob Roy is really quite an achievement. Fantastic use of Scottish landscape. It's a brilliantly crafted film in many ways. The makers took enormous care to try to bring a new authenticity to this story.
You're a thief, a murderer, and a violator of women.
I had hoped you'd come to me long since on that score.
If I had known earlier, you would have been dead sooner.
History might be kinder to Rob Roy, because certainly it had a far superior script. It did have some respect for Scottish history, but Braveheart gave an easier narrative to buy into.
Braveheart is brash, and it's glittering and in your face, and Rob Roy is much more moody. You've got to go on that journey, you've got to go with the characters, and things take longer to happen.
Maybe Braveheart stirs the emotions more, whereas Rob Roy, if you like, was more the kind of thinking person's historical epic.
A Scottish writer, producer and director may have helped Rob Roy paint a more realistic picture of Scotland. But the box office battle was won by the film which played fast and loose with history and had Australian Mel Gibson directing and starring as 13th century freedom fighter William Wallace. Braveheart was also shot mainly in Ireland, but Mel did film some key scenes here in the Highlands and took tips on how to do battle from reenactment experts Clan Wallace. I've come to the location of the Braveheart village here in Glen Nevis to find out how they got involved.
So Sean, what was your role in the film?
Originally as a historical consultant with regards to the family, and then the second part was getting the clans and everybody through the clans to come in from extras right through to the second principals.
And wasn't there a battle just here?
Where we're actually standing was the fort, and then the village went over the back there, and then down that slope. So the battle scene starts down there.
Didn't Mel Gibson come and stay with you to kind of chain up on the whole?
Yeah, well, stayed in a tournament in Pollokshields, Albert Drive. So ended up staying about a fortnight. Grew his hair long, grew the beard a wee bit, put the bonnet on. Fantastic.
What did the neighbours say when Mel Gibson walks out?
Nobody actually walked in and said, "Are you Mel Gibson?"
You wouldn't think it.
The battle scenes were some of the best we'd seen. It was sort of the beginning, wasn't it, of all those Sandal films.
Mel Gibson made it because he liked Spartacus and the big country. He wanted to make a western, basically, an old epic. So everything is reduced down to simple messages.
The scenes where young Wallace lays his father to rest were also filmed here in Glen Nevis, and I met up with Vary Calvi, who played his young sweetheart-to-be, to talk about one of the film's most memorable moments.
You played the young Catherine McCormack, so they were trying to find a child to match up as close to her.
Yeah, it's totally...
You said you look really like her. Kind of spooky. You're in some really iconic bits. I mean, the bit when you give him the thistle, it's an amazing image, isn't it?
Yeah.
That must be quite exciting to be part of cinema history.
Yeah, it is. I never expected that scene would be the scene that most people remember.
And had you done any acting before?
No, I was still very young. I was 4 or 5 years old.
How was that, going into a major film set with no...
It was fine. I thought it was quite real. I remember even standing on set and seeing the graves and thinking that his family had died. And that's the bit where I look over and I kind of bite my lip in the film. So I thought it was completely real.
Do you have thistles in your handbag at all times to give to the boys? Did you like them? Wouldn't that be funny? Well, there's that Braveheart girl again. She's trying to give me a thistle.
No, it's not subtle film, but it really pushes buttons, definitely, because, you can't help but be stirred when they're all there, facing up to the might of the English army with not much, but lots of blue paint on their faces.
William Wallace. Can't be tall enough.
Gibson came out of his trailer and we were all stood, and it was the first time anybody on earth had seen the blue face. He looked scary and odd. Basically, it was like a hairdresser's convention, because he came across and he said, "What do you think?" And we stood there like that, "Well, don't know, let me see the other side." He turned to the other side, and we all stood, shows again. And over the years I found it fascinating that became the central image of the Scot, the blue face.
In fact, Braveheart's blue face and symbolic speeches were cheekily adopted by the Scottish National Party as they entered a contemporary battle with the English for a devolved Scottish Parliament.
When Mel Gibson set out to make it, I mean, he couldn't have known that devolution literally would be on the agenda within 18 months of the film coming out. So it was an extraordinary moment of coincidence.
Would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
The word freedom is used so often in the film that it's like this sort of battle cry.
Freedom. Freedom. Alex Salmond, I think, ended a general election party conference speech with just the words freedom. Freedom. Freedom! Freedom!
Even though it bore very little resemblance to the reality of Scottish history, the politicians weren't going to let that get in the way. It was a great piece of propaganda for a sloganeering campaign.
It's the combination of the power and potency of the movie coming together with the rise of nationalism, the spirited commitment to devolution. It hit the zeitgeist of the time, the spirit of the times in that sense.
Braveheart's unashamed appeal to national pride just may have swung the vote for devolution, and certainly made it the most successful film about Scotland ever made. Highland films may continue to borrow from the Brigadoon school of mythology, but I could never tire of driving through this truly magical landscape. Time though for me to head for my next destination. The harbour town of Oban is the gateway to the Hebrides, and no trip to the Scottish Highlands would be complete without a spot of rain.
The assembly areas can be identified by a square, green and white sign with an arrow in each corner pointing inwards to a symbol depicting a family group.
At the last count, there were 95 inhabited islands in Scotland, but with a population of less than 100,000, characterised by unspoilt coastline, empty beaches, ancient monuments, and the odd whisky distillery. They've drawn filmmakers to tell stories of the isolation, the community spirit, and the weather issues of island life. Come here.
One of the things they offer to filmmakers is the ability to create your own almost fantasy community, completely detached from urban realities.
Little community of people clinging to the edge of a piece of land that's surrounded by a wild ocean. It helps take the audience into another world, the world in which those people inhabit.
The portrayal is of innocence, but couthy innocence, to some extent some semi-cunning Hebrideans who can easily outflank the forces from outside because they're not quite as innocent or as stupid as they might at first appear.
Ealing comedy Whiskey Galore is perhaps the best example of Hebrideans foiling the authorities. But the tougher side of island life is depicted in The Edge of the World, based on the evacuation of St Kilda. Filmed on Fura, director Michael Powell was so inspired by the rugged romance of the Scottish Isles, he would return to make another film with his writing and producing partner, Emmerich Pressburger. The island of Mull was the setting for their 1945 film, I Know Where I'm Going. And that is where I'm going right now.
It is your first visit to the island.
Yes, it is.
It is a sublime day.
Wendy Hiller plays the headstrong Joan, who sets off from England for the island of Killoran, determined to marry her rich fiancé. But, hampered by the weather, she becomes stranded on Mull, where she meets the dashing Torquil McNeil, and her best laid plans begin to falter.
Good evening.
Bad luck, no crossing today.
But isn't that the boat from Killoran?
No. And if she was, it is not the day she'd be getting back, my lady.
It is magical, it is mysterious, it is mythical, and at the end of the day it's a love story.
It's the classic story also of coming to Scotland and finding a gentler, more authentic form of life that takes you back, strips away a lot of that southern sophistication, so-called sophistication, and returns you to something more elemental.
Arriving in Mull, I feel like I've stepped back in time, and that much of it might be just how Powell and Pressburger found it back in the 1940s.
There aren't too many people who worked on the film still alive, but today we're very lucky to meet one of them. He's called Jimmy, and he's going to take me on a wee tour of some of the locations. Jimmy, I presume.
That's me, yes, that's me.
Jimmy, I'm
nice
Alan.
to see you, yes.
Nice to see you.
Yes.
How you doing?
All right, yeah.
Good. So what did you do on
well, I was asked to provide rabbits per day to the old colonel,
for his bird.
For the bird.
Yeah.
I've been training a golden eagle for 7 months.
An eagle? Hunting with it like a hawk?
Ha ha! That's shaken you.
Where is it? I'd like to see it.
Sorry, old boy, I lost him 4 days ago and I haven't got him back yet.
So you're sort of like craft services for the eagle?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Catering.
So there you are.
All right, Jimmy, let's go take a little tour and show me some of the locations.
Sure, yes. You'll notice fairly early in the film, you will see a car coming over the bridge. That bridge on my right at the moment, it would have been Wendy Hiller's first visit.
He's just come to visit for the first time?
That's right. This is where he said, will you do something for me?
Will you have the piper's play for Rome and Opera Maiden?
It might be done.
And she said, will you do something for me?
I want you to kiss me.
Just here.
Right, yeah, I can feel the sexual energy right now, actually. I can still feel the magnet.
Right.
Passionate power.
I think the location is absolutely vital. I think you get that sense you're going somewhere that is a different place, that really these sort of myths and life-changing experiences can happen.
We're coming round to the telephone kiosk.
Here it is!
And the waterfall.
Wow! I thought this was a fake phone box in the film.
No, not at all. The real McCoy.
It is?
Yes.
The waterfall. Speak up, there's a good chap. What? Big bird, my foot! It's my eagle!
That's what I'm trying to tell you. They're after it with shotguns.
Ignorant clods!
This is a listed building as well, then?
Well, I'm told that, yes. I don't know whether it's right or not.
I think there'd be an outcry if they tried to move it. It's amazing, stunning.
The elements of Scotland play an important part. You get great storms, you get choreo-breaking whirlpool. It's the fact that they're stranded and they have to come to terms with each other.
How long will the gale last? Just as long as the wind blows, my lady.
It can last for a day, it can blow for a week.
It looks so near. In half an hour we could be there.
In less than a second you could get from this world into the next.
So where are we now, Jimmy?
We're Carsick Pier, where a lot of activity was filmed.
So this is like the bit where she's sitting on her suitcase.
Well, she's
at the
sitting
start
on
of
her,
the
yes,
film.
she was sitting there, and you can remember she opened her handbag, and the lighter...
our itinerary fit
Well,
blew
yes,
away, yeah.
itinerary. It landed in the water.
So Jimmy, what do you think it is about the film that made you like it so much, and why it's been so popular?
I think it was a bit of a fairy story for a start, you know, and I suppose it was just right after the war, and we wanted something really to cheer us up.
I really like the way that the film sort of uses the kind of magical nature of the islands, but it doesn't make it too kitschy and cute.
Well, that,
you know what I mean? It kind of uses it a wee bit, but not too much. I think that's a nice balance.
Here come you, right?
Leave it there, Lauren.
Is that Garrick you're talking?
Yes, my lady. What would it be but the garlic?
What's that noise?
That would be the seal singing.
the empathy that Michael Powell had for this location and for the Scottish Islands is such that he manages to join the studio sets with the exterior locations so beautifully that I think most people watching the film are simply unaware of the transitions. And it's quite a shock when you go to Mull and discover that, yes, those places really are there.
It's Powell's clever combination of studio shots and Mull landmarks which give the film such a strong sense of place.
One of the most spectacular locations in the film is the Castle of Thorn, which in real life is Castle Duart.
And while the exterior was shot here on the island, the interior was meticulously recreated back in the studio.
Sir Lachlan.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Alan.
Welcome to Duart, Alan.
Thank you. It's a nice place you got.
Yes.
Not too shabby. So this is the room that they recreated.
Yeah. Yes.
In the studio. But that should be there, isn't it?
In the film, the fireplace is over on that wall.
Right.
But the alcove...
I remember that very distinctly,
is positioned... Well, that's correct.
That looks familiar.
Well, that's the spiral stairs, and at some stage in the film, they came down that staircase.
Excuse me, madam. Can I have the afternoon off?
Now, Martin, that's too bad of you. You are playing bridge with Mrs. Crosy.
I see, madam.
I think the message, if I know where I'm going, is the things it has to say about the people and about the island is kind of very positive and very accurate, I think.
Mm. Well, I think I know where I'm going. It is a cult film, and I mean, we've had people here, particularly Americans, who come here who are, I say cult members, but I know where I'm going. It features very, very strongly in their lives.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a good thing. I mean, I think people enjoyed seeing where these films were made.
Absolutely. Is that you?
Yes.
That's a lovely picture.
Another Mull landmark which was recreated for the film is the Western Isles Hotel, where Joan comes to stay while she waits for the weather to change. We decided to put on a special screening of the film here, to find out what the locals think of its depiction of Mull, and if I Know Where I'm Going stands the test of time.
I saw that film in Liverpool when I was 17. 10 years later, came to Braemar, and because of this film, you know, it was all romantic up here. I met my husband. To me, it's just romance.
It is, yeah, used you.
Just used
porn.
Good job, Bob Dip. It's a love story and it's a beautiful film. And it's fascinating to see the locations that are still obviously very recognisable to us now. The roads then look better than they do now.
Check it out. This is Wendy Hillier's autograph. When did you get that?
When they did the film here.
Wow, that's amazing.
That was 1944.
The canteen of Tobermory, it won't soon...
Oh, that was during the war.
Oh, that's somebody else.
That's
a boyfriend of yours from the Netherlands, I see.
After more than 60 years, it seems the film is still held in great affection here, and that Powell's passion for Scotland resulted in a romantic but authentic story of island life.
If you show that film to anybody who you really care for and they don't feel moved, then probably get rid of them, you know?
I've loved my visit to Mull, and can see why Joan was tempted to stay here. But the sun's out, and my boat has come in, so I have to move on. And for my next stop, I'm heading back to the mainland, and travelling south to Dumfries and Galloway. In Scotland's isolated villages, you can sometimes feel like the stranger in town, off the beaten path, in a mysterious place where anything might happen.
Filmmakers have played on our fear of the unknown, and remote Scotland is a place where werewolves prowl in the wilderness. A devil girl from Mars lands on the moors. A monster lurks at the bottom of a loch. And legend, folklore and superstition thrive.
One of the strangest films ever made in Scotland was set on the mythical Summerisle, but shot largely in locations in Dumfries and Galloway. It's a story about the clash between paganism and Christianity. The Wicker Man was slated on its release in 1973, but since then has become a cult classic.
Edward Woodward plays the uptight Inspector Howie, who comes to the island to investigate the missing girl, but discovers he's a pawn in a terrible plot instigated by the neo-pagan community and their leader, Lord Summerisle.
Everything under control, I'm a lord.
The film plays and updates the kind of classic cliches of the unwelcome person that you get from 50s Western films. The stranger kind of opening the doors of the saloon and the music stops. The music stops for Howie as soon as that plane lands on that water.
Descend the dinghy, please.
I'm afraid it can't be done, sir. This is private property. You can't land here without written permission.
He's a rigid churchman, and he's Calvinist of the extreme. So when he gets over to the island and all these bizarre things happen, it's an enormous shock to him. And it becomes evolved in a story of sort of medieval proportions, really.
This was Mae Morrison's shop in the film, but today you're more likely to find a Peter Howson painting than an edible effigy. Hi, Maureen.
Hi, Adrian.
Hi,
Nice to
Alan.
meet you.
Me too.
Hi.
So this is your gallery. Do you get Wicker Man fans coming to pay homage?
We get a lot of young people, normally students, whatever, coming in. We also got quite a few pagans from the USA coming in, who actually think the people in Kirkcudbright are all pagans, believe it or not.
Are there any?
Not that I know of. But if you want to meet any, maybe they could get in touch with you.
Yeah. You never know what goes on behind closed doors.
You just don't
do you?
know. Well, funnily enough, our neighbour has things like skulls, corn
See?
dollies outside
Look,
his
you scratched the
store.
surface and look what you're telling me
And
now.
there we are.
It was no pagans and now there's women's corn dollies and all
He's not
sorts of
pagan,
weirdness.
he just likes things like that.
Tell it to the judge, Maureen.
Wicker Man, it's not a byword for anything that goes on outside cities that's troublesome or problematic. You just say it to anyone, it's all about Wicker Man, and they know exactly what you mean. People with kind of shoes with kind of turned up bits at the front and, they've hand knitted their own wives.
One of the most troublesome things for Howie is the islanders' free love attitude to sex, and staying in a room next to Britt Ekland, temptation comes a-knocking.
What it did, of course, was to show the true, appalling thing that in his mind, because although he couldn't see her, he could see it in his mind what was happening. He knew what was happening in his mind. And this was real paganism. And she was really tempting this man.
Jane, you also had an involvement in the film. What was that?
I did a body double for Britt.
I thought you were going to say that because you have a startling resemblance to her.
Well, that's what they approached me and said, had anybody told me that? And I said no, but they asked, so I did it.
So were you doing the...
Yes, that was me.
That must have been fun.
It was fun.
And do you ever bang on your role just for old time's sake?
All the time, yeah. I'm the pagan in the clothes he was talking.
See, I knew there were pagans in Kirkcudbright. I found one.
Wicker Man's depiction of religion draws on the twin Scottish traditions of Calvinistic repression and ancient Celtic mythology.
Not a very morally clear movie, which is perhaps one of the reasons it has an enduring fascination, because Edward Woodward's definitely got that hint of the wee free about him, and it does contrast the more life-affirming aspects of as the pagan culture is depicted. Literally life-affirming, in that it's largely about fertility rites.
One of the most evocative places in the film is the tiny village of Anworth, and it's here I'm going to meet with director Robin Hardy to find out why he was drawn to these Scottish locations.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
We've come to see the Wicker Man locations.
Mm-hmm. And this is one, isn't it? This is
an important one, yes. Action came from over there behind us. There was a maypole there, just the outside of that wall.
Right.
And the boys were going around the maypole.
Yeah.
The musicians were sitting on that wall. And there's the schoolhouse.
Yeah.
The girls were their teacher. And at this point, Howie, the policeman, was due to be very shocked by the whole scene. A little later, when he's spoken to the school teacher, he comes over here to see where she's buried, the girl he's looking for.
Rowan.
Should we go into the church?
No. Warning, dangerous building, keep clear. Okay.
I think God will protect us.
Which one?
Indeed.
This scene, he passes a woman feeding her baby. Is she holding an egg?
Yes, she is. It's a fertility, a ritual, so that you'll have another baby.
What, holding the egg?
The egg?
Whilst milking?
Yes, while feeding the child in the church. We'd also passed this memento mori thing with skull and crossbones.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was a prop thing for the movie.
No,
it's actually in this churchyard.
No, we saved money on props.
So you're lucky with this location.
It had everything, and it was one of those rare ones where
church.
You don't have to cheat.
No.
It's all there.
It's a really unusual film in that it portrays Scotland in a very different way to what people had portrayed it in films up to then.
We felt that there was a tremendous tradition of Celtic music and so on and so forth, and that if you had a pagan island, it would use all the beautiful and musical things that are in the Scottish culture, but also contrast them to the more Puritan aspect in Scottish culture.
Country of contradictions, definitely. Yeah. Do you think it was ahead of its time, or was it of its time?
I think it's still ahead of its time. People don't expect you to mix genres. They don't expect to have comedy in a horror film.
No.
They don't expect to have, rather charming sex in a horror film. They don't expect to have lovely songs in a horror film. But all those things exist in life, and if something suddenly becomes horrific, it's 10 times as horrific if it comes out of normal life.
Exactly.
It's certainly not a horror film in the conventional sense, in that the scares in it are not really scares, they just make you unsettled. And there's weird things like the toad in the mouth of the child.
In he goes.
And they lift up the desk in the school, and there's a beetle tied to a nail going round and round. It's really odd.
There's a scene where there's just what appears to be dried out intestines on a gravestone.
Well, what is it? The poor wee lassie's needle string.
It's things like that cumulatively the effect they have is to make you think this is actually really creepy.
I'm here at the Ellengowan Hotel in Creetown, which was used as the interior for the Green Man Inn in The Wicker Man. I'm going to go inside, and I wonder if any of the original cast of The Wicker Man might be inside.
Ian Cutler was just 18 when he fiddled along to Body Bar Sing-Along, The Landlord's Daughter, here in this very bar.
Our name is Petra, the pants of every gentleman do stand up at attention.
It's quite raunchy.
It is a bit raunchy, isn't it?
Was it raunchy times making the film?
I think it was for the older people in the film, yes. I sort of all passed me by, really.
Why were you, going to bed with a good book?
Oh, yes.
What do you think is the secret of the lingering success and love of The Wicker Man?
I think a lot of the folklore in it is actually very accurate. And, a lot of films sort of overdo it and go a bit far, but it is actually, they are all genuine folklore customs, and the music was very different, and we had a lot of fun up here while we were doing it.
The Landlord's Daughter is a pretty good sort of indication of how sort of venal and sexual they are. You get the sense straight away that these people are kind of deviants, but deviants in a very kind of hairy, organic sort of free range deviants. That's what they are.
The scenes where Howie finally meets his fate at the hands of these free-range deviants were filmed here on the cliff tops at Burrowhead.
So this is where it was. The procession came up from the cliff edge, with Howie being pushed forward by the giant.
It was down there when he went, "Oh Jesus Christ! Oh Jesus Christ!"
Yes,
that's a good line.
Oh Jesus Christ!
They all said to me before, "Look, I had a day off, would you like to come along and see The Wicker Man?" And I said, "No, I don't want to see it. I saw it as the audience see it." And you get the same amazement.
Was it a difficult scene to shoot this? I mean, it looks quite complex.
It all sort of worked to clockwork, as it were, because the animals were put up in cherry pickers. Then Edward was put up there in his little niche, and I was up there with him, and the goats were urinating on him, and he was cawing and crying. It was incredible.
God, I humbly entreat you for the soul of this thy servant Neil Howie.
In 65 years of being an actor, I have never ever known such terror. Although everybody assured me that it can't catch fire up here because it's all been, especially flame-proofed. You sit up in a head 50 or 60 feet up or whatever it is, made of wicker, and start acting your socks off.
The crowd were just on the periphery of it, singing away. Summer is a coming in, loudly sing cuckoo, and suddenly the band started to break, and down he went, and there were the Sunnies right now.
Yeah.
Perhaps a little lower.
But a little redder.
It just went straight down, and the incredible thing was that it worked first time.
The hills collapsed with the sun behind it. I think one of the best shots I've ever seen in a movie.
The Wicker Man may depict a Scotland of superstition and religious extremes, but its cult status continues to grow and is celebrated here in Dumfries and Galloway with an annual Wicker Man Festival. Before they start looking for the next sacrifice, I think I'll head to the city.
Scotland's capital is a city of Jekyll and Hyde contrasts. From its chocolate box castle and historic centre to its darker underbelly and less than salubrious suburbs, Edinburgh on film shows that the creme de la creme can sometimes turn very sour.
From the middle-class milieu of Miss Jean Brodie and the sentimental whimsy of Greyfriars Bobby, to Bill Douglas's stark portrayal of poverty in the mining village of New Craig Hall, and the darker reality of drug addiction in Trainspotting, the screen portrayals of Edinburgh show these different worlds are closer than you think.
You could walk from Miss Jean Brodie to Trainspotting. It's not very far. You walk through Grassmarket or Greyfriars. They're the locations used in the middle class, hoity-toity, these are my girls kind of world of Miss Jean Brodie. And then you go down to Waverley Station, and that's where the beginning of Trainspotting is, where Ewan McGregor's laughing into the face of the driver in a freeze frame. But they're both really showing you that it's not just historic buildings and there's kind of darkness afoot in Miss Jean Brodie.
Maggie Smith won an Oscar for her portrayal of the confident but dangerously misguided teacher whose forthright opinions on love and the politics of Mussolini are certainly not on the curriculum at the Marcia Blaine School for Girls.
I am in the business of putting old heads on young shoulders, and all my pupils are the creme de la creme. Give me a gal at an impressionable age, and she is mine for life.
The film, made by Ronald Neame, just uses a few locations. Much of it is actually done in the studio, but they're extremely effective in evoking that sort of sense of this genteel, socially exclusive Edinburgh. And of course it's identified with Morningside.
So I invited the Morningside Parish Ladies Group to tea to find out if the film bears any resemblance to the place in which they live.
So, who would like a cake? No? Oh, I don't want.
I want to make sure I get my one. May I have the chocolate one? So you all watched The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie. What did you think?
All the teachers at the Marcia Blaine Academy seemed to be exactly like my own school teachers. The thing is, there was a central figure there who was engineering all of this. She was the one who was wicked and devious, and
she very much manipulated these particular girls.
You girls are my vocation. If I were to receive a proposal of marriage tomorrow from the Lord Lion, King of Arms, I would decline it. I am dedicated to you in my prime. And my summer in Italy has convinced me that I am truly in my prime.
I thought the strength of the thing was that, in fact, Miss Brodie was in many ways very attractive. Yeah. And I took from it the message that actually evil could be very attractive.
You're right, there's many positive things about her, but ultimately you cannot... really, she was a fascist.
Oh, of course. Absolutely, absolutely.
Observe the litter. In Italy, Mussolini has put an end to litter in the streets. Do any of you little girls remember what the followers of Mussolini are called? Fascisti. That is correct.
What does it feel like to see a film that's set in your hood?
When you moved up to Morningside, there was a lot of talk about the prime of Miss Jean Brodie, and sort of when you speak to anyone who's been prim and proper, they put on the prime of Miss Jean Brodie's voice.
Yeah.
And I hadn't quite understood that until I watched the film, and then I was like, oh, that's where it comes from.
So it kind of helped you grasp the mystery that is Morningside.
Soon you will graduate to the senior school, and I will no longer teach you, but you will always be Brodie girls.
Is it a Morningside trait then, that sort of control and...
You want good manners. You do want to speak well, and we pay huge mortgages to live in Morningside, let's be honest as well.
But I would need to counter that and say that I live in Morningside because I like its village atmosphere and its eccentricity, and in some ways it's Miss Brodie's eccentricity that I find attractive.
I think that's the most attractive part of her, isn't it? I mean, I think that's the thing. We all have things about ourselves that are attractive. We all have things about ourselves that are unattractive, and if the balance kind of tips in one way, as it does with her, there, but for the grace of the gods. I can say God.
The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie was based on the book by Edinburgh author Muriel Spark. And 30 years on, another native writer provided the raw material for a more up-to-date vision of the city, Trainspotting.
Based on Irvine Welsh's novel about a group of friends addicted to heroin and alcohol, it probably wasn't the image that the Edinburgh Tourist Board wanted to promote.
From the minute you start with those drum beats from Iggy Pop, that sent a message right away that this is a film that actually wants you to enjoy it. You're not going to be lectured at here. You're going to go along for the ride to an extent, and the ride's going to ultimately take you to some very dark, scary places.
Just a perfect day. Drink sangria in the park, and then later,
perhaps I would like me to go for a taxi. Trainspotting was probably the hippest film worldwide in the 90s. I can't think of another film that managed to fuse literature, pop music and cinema.
The film's hip modernity was the vision of Scottish screenwriter Joan Hodge and producer Andrew MacDonald, along with director Danny Boyle.
The reason it was a hit was because it actually, for the most part, showed young people in Scotland having a good time, getting up to all sorts of mischief, pursuing their own gratification in a very anarchic way.
It felt like it was a very difficult subject, unpleasant junkies in living on the edge of society. But I guess that realisation made us all the more determined to try and get it to communicate to people. Everybody has tried some kind of drug, generally alcohol, but lots of other people in the world have tried drugs, and the reason they're trying all these is because they think they're going to enjoy it. Now, we just thought you had to show that side of the story. The problem with most other films is they just show the absolute seedy side. Nobody knows that.
The tone of it's very clever, to make it glamorous and exciting in pop music, but at the same time show how horrible it is to be hooked on drugs.
Trainspotting definitely gave the Scots a ton of confidence. And that was the first time in my life when to have a Scots accent made you cool.
I'm cleaning up and I'm moving on, going straight and choosing life. I'm looking forward to it already. I'm going to be just like you.
That being a Scot now as an actor is no longer a barrier, and it was a barrier for a long time.
I knew it would be a good film. I never knew it would connect with an audience, become a sort of zeitgeist thing, but it did. You just can't know that.
Released in 1996, Trainspotting surfed the wave of cool Britannia and injected a new buzz into Scottish film. But Trainspotting wouldn't have been possible without the explosion in Indigenous filmmaking in the 1980s. And to go back to the beginning of that story, I need to go to Glasgow.
The French film director Bertrand Tavernier once said that he found Edinburgh picturesque, but Glasgow dramatic. The city was for a long time synonymous with Clydeside, hard men, hard drinking, and to a certain extent that image has prevailed in its on-screen persona. Alright?
You've only been in this place a few hours and you've started already. Well, let me tell you, hard man, you're in a real prison now.
Heard it. The people of the city have mined the coal, they've poured the steel, they built the ships and the engines that fueled the British Empire. It's a working class city. So the cinematic product that has come out of our city genuinely reflects that. Hard working, hard drinking, hard men.
You really think you can assault a governor?
From Hayman's role as Barlinnie inmate Jimmy Boyle to Liam Neeson's boxing big man, the Glasgow hard man is an enduring image. But in the 80s, the city had to adapt to the post-industrial age.
A new wave of Indigenous filmmakers also began to create a new identity for the city.
The father figure of this brave new world was director Bill Forsyth, and the new town of Cumbernauld, just outside Glasgow, was the setting for his breakthrough hit, Gregory's Girl. John Gordon Sinclair plays the love-struck teen besotted with his school football team's new star.
She's gorgeous. She is absolutely gorgeous.
She's gorgeous. The most important person in Scottish cinema is Bill Forsyth. What he did enabled me and lots of other people to become filmmakers.
Bill Forsyth is undoubtedly the most important figure in bringing an image of modern Scottishness, I think, to a wide audience.
I was delighted to meet with Bill Forsyth back in Cumbernauld to find out how he kick-started a homegrown Scottish film industry.
Hello, Bill. Hiya. How are you doing? Good. Well, look, here we are. Avon Hill High School behind you. How does it feel like to be back?
it's beginning to feel like work. I'm starting to get a sore head all over again.
It must be quite hard to shoot a football match, a lot going on.
When I make a film, there's always a little perverse thing that I do, and the perverse thing in this was I've got absolutely no interest in football at all. I didn't know one end of a pitch from another. Mind you, they're quite similar. And we had to choreograph Dee Hepburn, who played Dorothy.
Did she play football before?
She didn't, no. She trained with Patrick Bissell. We thought we'd get her the best.
That's the sort of thing that gives football a bad name. That is disgusting. Oh, man. Oh.
When she comes to try out for the football team, I love Jake Darcy's face.
Oh, yeah.
As the trainer, as the school coach.
Yeah.
He's not having it.
No. He was just a traditional, bunkered guy. Football is a man's thing.
What do you want, dear?
I'm here for the trial.
Look, this is a football trial, dear. Maybe Miss McAlpine's up to something with a hockey team, I don't know. But this here is football. For boys.
That's right. Football trial's 11 a.m. I saw the notice.
You created something that everybody in Scotland kind of has as part of their heritage now.
Well, possibly just because it was the first. I mean, there was no feature film industry in Scotland before then, really. We were the first generation of filmmakers who decided to stay here. It was the first time that Scottish people were able to kind of possess a film because it had been made here and it had been made by people who lived here, and so they did embrace it in a different way.
It's not right. It's unnatural. It doesn't even look nice. It's modern, Andy. It's good. Modern girls, modern boys. It's tremendous, look.
The reason I think Gregory Girl was such a big hit was for the first time we were being shown a version of ourselves, and usually quite a sympathetic and flattering version of ourselves, with the concerns that we had, the insecurities we had, the desires that we had, and our own patter as well, to some extent.
I'm in love. Since when? Half an hour ago. It's great. I feel restless and I'm dizzy. Wonderful. I bet I don't get any sleep tonight. That sounds more like indigestion.
Gordy is hilarious.
He had a kind of native sense of timing and, body language.
Do you get any plasters out of you? There's one next door.
No. Maybe. I'll get some.
I also love that he puts the deodorant on top of his shirt.
Yeah.
I don't think people still do that, actually.
You don't want to do that.
You're not supposed to do that.
The innate awkwardness of Gregory was something just about every young Scottish teenager could identify with. There's a magnificent scene where he's just walking across a red blaze football pitch, and there's two teachers looking out the window, killing themselves laughing just at how ridiculous his behaviour is. And it relates to your own teen paranoia that people are looking down and laughing at you just for walking across the road, just for walking across the pitch.
Who is it? That damn boy in fourth year. The one that's in your football team. Well, I heard they were awarded a corner last week and took a laugh at that.
To see if today's teenagers have the same concerns and what effect Gregory's Girl had on the school, we showed the film here at Abram Hill High to some pupils and teachers, past and present.
You wait the mate and beta.
What did you think about the way the kids were portrayed in the film?
It's hysterical.
See the way Gregory runs, that's hard.
I don't think I look like Gregory, which is pretty insulting.
It was a tremendous boost for the school, a tremendous boost for Cumbernauld.
It was brilliant. We used to walk up and down the corridors and you'd be quite 12 and it's like, oh God, they must be filming again today. But we thought it was brilliant.
So, from a male perspective,
you're fantastic, yeah.
It's brilliant. Do you miss the 80s cuts?
Yeah, I'd fit in. Cumbernauld gets a lot of bad press, and one of the good things that came out of Cumbernauld was the film, I think.
Forsyth found the streets, shops and parks of the new town to be a perfect ready-made set for his film.
Why did you decide to do it here in the first place?
Well, I think, I wanted a new town. I wanted the main idea I had was that the town should be the same age as the teenagers, so that the whole place just expressed that gawkiness, Yeah. And I used to say, when we were looking for locations, I used to say, I like the idea that even the trees around here were like teenage trees, Yeah. They were wee saplings, there were no big trees. They're all big trees now, of course. But I just like that kind of rawness and awkwardness of the place being the same as the kids. It was just here for the taking, really.
Cumbernauld.
What's it called? It's Cumbernauld.
It was a film that you could relate to on every level. I actually knew where Cumbernauld was, and I could never have imagined that anybody would put that on the screen and I would actually want to see it, not just once, but again. It was entertaining. It didn't feel like a chore, like so many British films did.
So, Bill, here we are, back in the street where Gregory first meets Susan.
Hello, Gregory. What you up to?
Did you think it was when you were writing it that the combination of football and young love would be such a dynamic combo?
It was total exploitation. We'll try and get the ingredients. A love story, football, Scotland, young love. We thought it was irresistible. We thought everybody in Scotland's going to want to see this film, naively,
Forsyth had worked with John Gordon Sinclair before, but had to look long and hard for the girl to play his true love, Susan. Eventually, he discovered pop star to be Claire Grogan, working as a waitress in a Glasgow restaurant.
So Gordy and I went to meet her and I sat them down on the park bench, and it was almost like my chance to see them together and also their chance to meet. So it was like a kind of pairing off, I felt like a bit of a matchmaker,
Do you want to dance? It's really good. You just lie flat down and dance. I'll show you what I mean. I'll start it off and you just join in when you feel confident enough. Okay?
When Greggy's talking about how he's stuck to the planet, with gravity, I had an idea in my head that we could put more feeling into that with the whole shot tilting with the two of them in it, that moment of, first love when the whole world goes in it. I thought it was going to be an impossible, process shot, too expensive, but all you do is just turn the camera at 90 degrees and suddenly you've got the whole image going squiffy.
We are clinging to the surface of this planet while it spins through space at 1,000 miles an hour, held only by the mystery force called gravity.
Wow.
A lot of people panic when you tell them that and they just fall off. But I see you're not falling off. That means you've got the hang of it. That means that you have got
natural ability.
Yeah.
Before Bill Forsyth came along, I sort of thought of Scottish film as being historical, as something that used to happen. And I think the interesting thing with Bill Forsyth's arrival was that he kind of rebranded, the possibility of us making Glasgow films.
Liz is my ex-wife. What's that way, Andrew? You're upset, Lorna. What the heck are still heaps of room in the front?
Post-Forsyth, directors like Gillis McKinnon began to reflect their own lives on screen and bring a lighter touch to Glasgow films.
God. He's electrocuted.
Andrew.
I think Glasgow discovered through the 80s and the 90s its feminine side, and I think we found something else within ourselves to express. And that came out in our creativity. So I like to think it's the softer, more creative side of this hard, macho city that we're all part of.
Bill Forsyth went on to make several more landmark Scottish films, including romantic island comedy Local Hero.
You seem to like this place.
I like the scenery.
And Comfort and Joy, a love story set amidst Glasgow's infamous ice cream wars. And Glasgow itself has remained the hub for contemporary Scottish filmmaking.
To my mind, the memorable ones are Ratcatcher and Peter Mullen's Orphans, which I absolutely loved.
I mean, I thought it was mad, completely mad film, but it really caught something about Glasgow. Gary Lewis, I'm here for you, man, carrying the coffin on his shoulders, you know.
Would the pallbearers please come forward?
I'll take it.
You'll need some help, sir.
I said I'll take it. On my own.
I'm sorry, sir. I think you'll find she's too heavy.
She ain't heavy. She's my mother. They've gone grim again, Scottish movies. But brilliantly so. I mean, absolutely brilliantly so. Young Adam, Red Road, Ratcatcher, these are absolutely terrific films. Ratcatcher was absolutely applauded everywhere. You know, Young Adam is a really poetic film. You know, there are moments of pure art in there. The biggest change from Brigadoon to Young Adam is that Scotland's seized back Scotland.
The image of Scotland on screen has come a long way since the misty mountains and purple heather of Brigadoon. Our homegrown writers, directors and producers have shown Scotland to be a diverse and contemporary nation in all its glory and grime.
Got a long ways to go because we've only really started making films in the last 40, 50 years of any great note. And I think what we'll see over the next 40, 50 years is we will see a much greater variety of the lives, loves and deaths of the Scots.
The thing I've learned most is that while people really like to see themselves and their real lives portrayed on the big screen, they also all enjoy a bit of Hollywood fantasy from time to time. Heck, don't we all?
And coming up next tonight, we're exploring the weird and wonderful world of early cinema with Paul Merton.